Well, this is my first triduum as a priest, and it's a bit of an odd one, that's for sure. With just us priests and seminarians and deacon here celebrating together without all of you. And as I was reflecting then on the reading that the church gives us today, and as Jesus asks us to accompany him up Calvary, up the hill to the cross with him, the thing that struck me this year in particular, because of our situation, is the isolation of the cross. God chose to die for us, but in particular, God chose to become isolated for us. And he chose loneliness for us. And loneliness and isolation are the fruits of sin that you and I have to bear. How many of us feel in one way or another, maybe not constantly, not all the time, it's not overbearing, perhaps it is, but in one way or another, how many of us feel lonely? Feel like no one quite understands us. Perhaps we're married, and even within that marriage, there's a hint of struggle, because there's this touch of a sense that this other person with whom I'm so close, who shares a bed with me, doesn't fully get me. I feel a bit isolated. I feel a bit lonely. You and I were not made for loneliness. So when we feel it, there's a reason why it feels bad. Because we were made for communion. We were made to be in union with others, with one another, and ultimately with God. And the whole thing of sin is that sin is a breaking of that union. So it forms a kind of isolation. Even when I sin on my own, sure, it's maybe obvious when I sin in ways that directly hurt someone else. If I lie, or if I hit them, or if I'm gossiping, or whatever it might be, it's clear how that's breaking bonds. That's breaking unions. That's creating ostracization or isolation. But even when I sin on my own, even if it's pornography or masturbation or something that seems very, very private, in reality, what's happening? I am training my heart to turn in. And if my heart was made to be in union with another, when I break that, I hurt me and I hurt the other. Because now the thing that I am made for is no longer in reach because I've isolated myself. It's funny, the devil will try to trick us. He will try to make us think even that we're in union with others. If you look through the gospel reading today, what does it look like? Who's the isolated one? Who's the forsaken one whose face is so bloodied we do not even recognize him? Who's the one who seems to be ultimately rejected by absolutely everyone? Christ. In the gospel today, it looks like the good guy is the one who's isolated. And it looks like the bad guys are the ones who are actually united. I mean, it's kind of amazing, actually. Like, the Jews and the Romans never got along. The Jews hated the Romans. They were their oppressors. But on this day, the leaders of the Jews go to Pilate and say, no, you're our buddy, please help us with this. He's like, you take care of it yourself. And they're like, no, we need your help on this one. And he is like, well, here's your king. And they're like, no, we have no king but Caesar, only your king. It sure seems like the event of today brought union to those who were sinning. And in the world today, is that still not true? In the complexities of life, if I'm in cahoots with another, doing something bad, shaving a little bit of money off the top of our corporation and putting it into our pockets, or if I'm actually in a full-fledged gang of some sort, or adultery, or any other form of sin where I'm in cahoots with another, does it not seem that I'm forming a union? I may even feel like I have a friendship. But what is true friendship based in? Love and truth. And if those friendships aren't based in that, they don't last. Because we're sinning together. And so we're destroying the things together. And who's to say that one day we won't destroy each other? No one. Because I'm training my heart to break things. And it is ironic, the Jews and the Romans, who on this day seem to be perfect buddies, never were before and never were after. And 40 years after this event, that Caesar, who the chief priests say, he's our only king, he sends troops to slaughter and kill basically everyone in the city of Jerusalem. Those friendships don't last. And yet it looks today like Christ is isolated. But when we peer a little deeper, we see what this whole thing is about. Sin breaks things. Sin creates isolation. We were made for union. What is going on here? It's that the entire idea is for the perfect union, the most perfect love that there is, the love of the Trinity, would drill deeper and deeper and deeper to the very bottom of the pit of isolation. So that up there on the cross would be the perfect love. So that when it got to the bottom, it can kill it. It can explode it. It can destroy it from the inside out. So that the isolation no longer ever has the last word. What is Jesus doing? Jesus is looking down on you and me and saying, you were not made for isolation. You were made for love. And I want to come into the depths of that. I want to come in to the very bottom of your isolation. I want to come where you can't even bear to go yourself, and I want to heal you there. Jesus could have saved Judas. Judas just could not bear to let God go there. His shame was so great. But when we feel that shame, what does Christ want? He wants us in the confessional. He wants us coming to him, saying, actually, right where you think you are most alone, you'll find me. Because I took that place. I became the most alone one. You know, there's only one image that the church requires that we have in the sanctuary. Requires. We have to have it. It's not God the Father. It's not the Holy Spirit. It's not our Blessed Lady. It's not even just any picture of Jesus. It's Jesus on the cross. Because the whole power of everything that the church does comes through the cross. It's a mystery. But today Mary comes to you and me. She says, I became your mother this day. And I know you feel broken. I know you feel alone. I do too right now. But I am remaining with my son, and he's promised to save me, and he'll save you too. Come, stand with me. Come, be with me at the foot of the cross. Let us wait and watch the cross so that we can receive from him all that he wants to give to us.